All right, guys, we're going to do a live whiteboard Wednesday in just a second. Let me get everything set up. It's always really challenging to get this stand set up because I had to do it like a backwards way. But I'm going to try to do it, and I'm going to put questions. Make sure you guys ask questions in the... All right. I think you guys can see that pretty well at this point. Adjusting the stand, making sure it doesn't fall on me like last time. Let's hope it stays there. All right, guys, we're going to do a Whiteboard Wednesday tonight. I was excited about our last one. I know there was really good feedback, so we're going to do this every single Wednesday. So mark your calendars, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every single Wednesday. We're going to hit a total, a breakdown of what you guys want to talk about. So I'm not getting these just randomly. I'm putting this together because you guys have told me you want to talk about this in particular. So tonight in particular, next week we're talking about HSAs. This week we are talking Roth and traditional. If you guys have different suggestions, put them in the chat. I'll read through the chat in a second. I can't see anything, but I'll read through your suggestions for a couple weeks from now, like 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks or whatever, and I'll start getting different topics that you guys want me to discuss. But in the meantime, let's break this down, guys. So I often get the question, hey, should I do a Roth or should I do a traditional? I also get the question, hey, I have a Roth, should I do an IRA? And I kind of sometimes scratch my head a little bit because I don't really understand what that question means. And here's why. Because you're going to start up here, okay? So we have Roth and traditional. Let's start right up here. What's like the basics of what these things are? So all Roth means is post-tax. All traditional means is pre-tax. So you can have this is a type of account. This is type. This is not an account. You do not have a Roth and you do not have a traditional. You have a Roth something, a traditional something. Maybe it's a Roth 401k. Maybe it's a traditional 401k. Maybe it's a Roth IRA. So this is a type. So that needs to be very clear before we get started. This is type. Okay, so second thing is now because we know the type, right? Post-tax or traditional pre-tax. Now we have to find the account associated with this, right? So you cannot have a taxable brokerage with a Roth or traditional, right? It doesn't qualify as Roth and traditional. This is in particular for a 401k or an IRA. So I've gotten many questions and comments before. Hey, I have an IRA with my company. That's not a thing. An IRA is on your own. You have to go out to your company, go out to a Vanguard, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, somewhere like that, and you have to go select and open an IRA. That's an individual retirement arrangement. A 401k is an employer-sponsored plan. So the 401k is literally through your employer. You cannot have an IRA through your employer, but you can have a 401k through your employer. So most of you guys might be defaulted to a 401k, and typically the default option would be a traditional 401k. Typically, this is the default, typically. Now, some 401ks and a lot of them have what's called the Roth 401k option. So you have the option to put post-tax money into your 401k. That will go tax-free and so on and so forth. So these two accounts, right? So how you pay tax into these accounts is how the overall tax works, right? So if you're starting, I'm going to sit right here, right? You're putting money in the account right here. And then all of that money grows for, let's say, 40 years. So that's 40 years of tax-free growth. All the dividends you receive, all the growth in the capital appreciation, that is tax-free. That is literally free money. Anything you earn, the 10% you earn, the 8% you earn, whatever, free in between. If you put in post-tax, you've already paid the tax now, right? So you pay tax now if you choose the Roth option. If you choose the traditional option, you don't pay tax. It is pre-tax, right? So you're going to pay tax later, but you're going to receive the benefit now. So therefore, on the way in, if you pay Roth, you pay tax now, tax-free growth, the seed that you put in, and all that's going to grow to, let's say, multi-millions. When you take that money out, it is now tax-free entirely with the Roth option. With the traditional, you did not pay tax on the way in. It is tax-free for the 40 years. And when you take it out, it's considered income tax. So if I withdraw, if I have a $2.1 million balance, I don't get necessarily taxed on $2.1 million that day and there, right there. I might pull a small percentage. I might pull $50,000 from that. I might pull $100,000 from that overall $2.1 million balance. Whatever I withdraw in that given year is considered income tax, okay? That will go into tax. So that is what is paying tax now or paying tax later, and then when you get the benefit now or later as well. The big thing with Roth and traditional are Roth and traditional, they have what's called, traditional has what's called RMDs, right? Required minimum distributions. Roth does not have that. That is a key distinction between the two, and that can come in big time when it comes to tax planning and tax preparation for when you retire. This is why you meet with a good CPA, you meet with good advisors, and you talk to financial professionals, because you need to understand all of the rules to the game. Because when you get to 72 years old, you do not want to have to pool money that way too much money. Let's say you have $1 million or $2 million all bundled up here, and all of a sudden by 72, or actually to be honest, 70, you're going to have to be pooling a ton of money, way too much, and you'll be paying a ton of taxes. You do not want to get into that situation. It's a good situation, I guess you could say, in a sense. Like, you have a lot of money, but you're still going to pay a shit ton of taxes. Don't do that. So the key is, this is the Secure Act of 2019, okay? So if your 70th birthday was after 7/1/2019, the RMDs start at 72. If your 70th birthday is before that, basically all of us probably listening to this, we are at 70 years old, okay? So we're at 70 years old for this RMD. So if we retire at 65 and we have $2 million into this account, RMDs are going to start at 70 years old. And the government's going to decide how much that is based on the tax tables and the actuarial tables, right? Because talking about death and how long we're going to live and projections and all that stuff, you're putting the power into the government's hand, which is probably not a good idea. So that's a little bit about this piece, right? So the question is, so now you guys understand the difference between a Roth, maybe a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, a traditional IRA, or traditional 401k. You can have all of these options, right? So when somebody comes to me and say they have a Roth, I don't know what you're talking about. I would assume it's an IRA, but I don't necessarily know. It could be a 401k. And then if you say, hey, I got an IRA through my employer, I'm like, that's not a thing. So it's likely a 401k. So those key distinctions are extremely important to understand. Now, the general guideline when you're thinking, okay, now I kind of understand this, but now I need to figure out which should I actually do. That's why you guys are on this call, right? So the general guideline is that it's based on things, the variables that we don't really necessarily know, right? We do not understand what our tax bracket's going to be in retirement, right? It's impossible. We literally don't know 40 years from now what taxes are going to be like. If the government decides to forgive all the student loans, I would expect those to be a little higher. I don't know about you guys. I would expect those to be higher. So if they are higher at retirement, it is likely, keyword likely, a better option to do Roth, because you would rather pay tax now when your taxes are lower than when they're higher at retirement, right? It would make sense. On the reverse end, if your lower expectation is at retirement, you should go traditional. Now, obviously, it's not that easy, right? Because in the future, we don't know tax rates. Historically speaking, we are in a very low tax rate environment, right? So I would expect, and I think a lot of financial professionals would expect, them to be higher in retirement, at least the tax brackets to go higher. Not necessarily your rate personally, but at least the tax bracket to go higher. So that's key as well. The brackets, are they going to go higher? Now, your specific, your income, you might be super high. You might be $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 per year, and you might be super high. So you might want to look and lean towards the pre-tax or traditional option, because you're going to bring down your taxes, right? So 401ks and IRAs are two adjustments to gross income to get you to AGI. That's a key. Those are two key ones, and that's why your taxes are going to decrease, and you get the tax benefit now. That's the tax benefit now. That applies to 401ks and IRAs for traditional. If you go the Roth option, you are not getting those benefits. That's not reducing your AGI. But that's a key distinction as well. Now, IRAs, another consideration, there's income limits, right? So 401ks do not have income limits. Like, you can invest up to $20,500 per year, and assuming you have a Roth and traditional 401k, you could do $20,500 per year. If you're over the age of 50, you can do another, I think it's $6,500, what's called a catch-up contribution. And if you're an IRA, that's $6,000 per year. And the catch-up contribution is right now $1,000. And this is in 2022. These limits will increase. This is expected to go $6,500 in 2023, and so on and so forth, right? So there's phase-out limits for income limits, right? So if you're an IRA, to do the Roth IRA directly, you have to make less than 129 if you're a single filer. If you're married, you have to make less than 204. This is modified adjusted gross income, right? So we did a lesson last week on the tax calculation. That's what I was talking about, the modified adjusted gross income when it's in relation to the income limits. You have to know MAGI for single and married filing jointly. This is 2022 limits. This is a phase-out limit, so you can do partial up until 144 and partial up to 214, but it's a phase-out limit is what they call it, right? So the question is, well, what if I'm over this limit, but I want to do a Roth IRA, right? Because the Roth 401k is not impacted, but the Roth IRA is impacted directly. Easy. The backdoor IRA. So this is if, let's say you're married filing jointly, your modified adjusted gross income is $230,000, and you're like, hey, I want to do a Roth IRA. I'm going to go ahead and do the backdoor. So all you got to do is contribute $6,000 into the traditional IRA. You then convert it. All you do is press a button, literally a button, because I did this last year. You literally convert the IRA with one click of a button. That is now converted into a Roth IRA, and you've done the backdoor IRA, okay? You will get tax form 8608. You'll want to give that to your CPA. Pretty simple to do, nothing crazy or anything like that. That is not illegal. I get the question, is that illegal? No, that's totally legal. You just have to be prepared to realize that's now a non-deductible contribution, right? Because you moved it to IRA. Now, if it was traditional, it would bring down your taxable income, okay? Which brings us to the buckets, the tax buckets I always discuss, right? And so let's say we get pre-tax, post-tax, and taxable. So we have a pre-tax option. Let's say that's standard, a standard 401k, a traditional 401k. Maybe your post-tax option's a Roth IRA, and maybe your taxable is none of the above, but it's a taxable brokerage account. You want to fill up all of these buckets. You want to make sure all these buckets are filled up, because when you are at retirement age or ready to pool, you're going to want a little bit in each one, right? Because what you could strategically do is play the tax game, okay? And you could play Uncle Sam a little bit here. So the standard deduction, let's say you are, was it $25,900 for married filing jointly. So that's the standard deduction. Theoretically, you could play this game. Now, there's RMDs, remember, come into play. But maybe if you strategize this the right way with your CPA, you can pull up to $25,900 pre-tax. Okay, that's going to bring down this to zero, and you're going to have zero income tax on that money that you withdraw. That's a pretty small portion, but let's say you only need $100,000. That's a quarter of your money that you're pulling technically. Now, there's a lot of strategies to this. You need to meet with the CPA. I'm just saying this out loud. This isn't like a specific one I'm trying to get after. I'm just trying to explain the concept. It's almost up to, I think it's 83,000. I forget the exact number. Let's just say 83,000. For capital gains at 0% if you're married filing jointly. So if you're married filing jointly and you want to pool some money up until, for capital gains, which is applied to the taxable account, not the pre-tax or post-tax, you have up to $83,000, technically speaking, on capital gains. If you're married filing jointly, you pay zero tax. In that case, you're pulling over $100,000 technically at 0% rates. Now you got to move to post-tax, and let's say you have a Roth IRA as well of $1 million. You can pull that tax-free. There's no limits on that, right? The key is to pay the most minimum of tax possible, right? So I don't like to say this, but it's a good way to explain this is, would you rather pay tax on the seed Or would you rather pay tax on the tree? Now, again, it's not the full tree because you're pulling apart the tree per se as you're withdrawing up to these different amounts or whatever you decide to do. This is how you decide, guys, and how you get to your answer. Now, it's not very, hey, this is exactly what I should do after this call. You need to meet with a professional because I don't know your situation. For example, you don't have to do Roth or traditional. You can do both. I do both. I do a backdoor IRA. I do a taxable brokerage. I love the taxable brokerage. And I also do a solo 401k for my pre-tax. And I do traditional pre-tax through employer contributions because I'm a S-Corp and I own my own business, right? So I have a solo 401k and I also use the pre-tax option to do that. So I have pre-tax, I have backdoor IRA, which is technically post-tax, and I have taxable. Taxable is likely the most freeing one or the most flexible one. However, because there's not rules tacked around, it's just like 15% or 0% up to this number, 15%, et cetera, et cetera. So taxable is most likely the most flexible option, which is why a lot of people like it. But you still will pay tax on the gains, 15% generally, right? 0, 15, or 20. Also depends the type. I did a long thread about that as well. But pre-tax, they obviously have some things. Post-tax is pretty easy to mess with. So between these two, these are really flexible. Pre-tax has a lot more because, hey, you got the tax break now, or sorry, you got the benefit now, but you're going to pay tax later, and the government's going to want their money. So there's obviously more stipulations around that, which gets you to the pre-tax one. So a little mix of a lot of these would make a lot of sense. Now, I will say, a general rule of thumb, if you are below these numbers, I'd say most of your money, I wouldn't say all of your money, I'd say the bulk majority should be going to probably Roth dollars. I think I would still set yourself up to have some pre-tax, even if you're in a lower income bracket, just a little bit at least to have some flexibility when you when you get a little older and stuff and get to that age. But in general, I think Roth is probably your better option. If you're making under $100,000, just go straight up Roth IRA. Just do a straight up Roth 401k typically. That's not investment advice. You need to talk with a professional. But just in general, if you're wanting a quicker answer, that's what I would typically do. But remember, quick answers or quick questions get quick answers, and they're not always elaborate. So you need to meet with a professional on that. But this is a little insight, guys, into the difference between Roth traditional, the 401k and IRA to kind of elaborate on that, and also an explanation of which to pick and how to decide amongst that, because there's a lot of factors that come into play. Will you get Social Security? Are these RMDs going to play a factor? Do you have disability? Do you get any other type of government assistance or benefit in general or whatever that's going to impact your retirement? Do you have your buckets filled? How much do you have in each one? How old are you? How much are you making? All those questions are going to come into play when a professional kind of says, okay, this is the route you need to go and the buckets that you need to fill. And therefore, if we want a goal based on our goals, let's say 1 million, 2 million, and 1 million collectively, now we can back into, okay, based on assumptions of, let's say 8% or whatever, based on our age, based on our risk profile, now we can select investments on a monthly basis to get to those desired goal allocations. And that's the key to it, guys. Set your goals, understand what your goals are, and work backwards to figure out what should be going in that on an annual basis. That's it, guys. That's a little background on Roth and traditional. I'm going to answer questions in a second. Let me flip my camera around. All right. Let's see what we got, guys. So I know I just did a long lesson on that. I didn't see all the questions. I couldn't see everything. But I am going to go to the very top and just make sure I answer everything. And if you guys want me to speak on a specific topic in like next week, I'm doing HSAs next week, but let's just say the following week, post what you want me to talk about or what you want me to teach about on this chat below in the comment box. Okay. Is it course time? I could use a course. What do I think about life insurance accounts? Good question. I use life insurance for life insurance. I don't use life insurance for investments. general rule of thumb, and just think about this logically, guys. If you're being offered a cash value life insurance, right? Let's say a permanent life insurance. Think about this. If it's being put like an IUL, it's being put into an index, right? And that index is within this cash value plan or whatever that you have. What would make more money? An independent S&P 500 or S&P 500 wrapped within insurance that you're paying a fee to? That's why. I'm self-employed. What's the easiest way to do a traditional IRA? The simple thing would just be, guys, remember, it doesn't matter if you're, this is not employment based. An IRA is, let me see. There you go. It's on your own. So you don't have, it doesn't matter where you work, who your employer is or whatnot. It does not matter. Just go to simply go to a Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, and just go ahead and open one yourself. What about a 403B for nonprofits? 403B would fall under the 401k for the most part. Same with 457. I have both combined traditional TSP and Roth TSP. Would you recommend 95% of the Roth TSP and 5% traditional with 5% match? Again, I don't know. But this is an example where you're splitting the buckets a little bit. I don't know what your logic is behind the 95.5, but it might make sense if you're locking in the match and then you're going to head the 95%. I do know there's a bill proposed by the government that, because right now employer matches are traditional dollars. So if you are getting an employer match, but you're contributing with Roth dollars as well, don't forget about your employer portion, which is traditional dollars. So when it comes to 65, you will have a traditional portion and some Roth portion, and that's important to understand. Now, there's a bill that contributions from employers could potentially be Roth in the future. That's not a thing as of now. Regarding a Roth IRA, can you withdraw your own contributions? Yes. Before the age without penalties. So say you've contributed $18,000 in the last 3. Yes. So guys, the IRA, those are after tax. Let me see where that's at. Post-tax, right? So that's post-tax dollars, and therefore, if you put that money in post-tax, you can withdraw that money. Now, the earnings on that, it has to be 5 years of earnings, and over 59 and a half. For say a down payment without penalties, I think that's yeah. So so on top of that, there's actually a rule that you can early withdrawal up to $10,000. I did that. I don't know if I'd recommend it. I wouldn't pull from your retirement if you don't have to. My goal would be to just go ahead and set yourself up with a down payment and just say, okay, this is my home down payment. I'm saving for this. Here's the cash flow that comes in from my budget every single month, and I'm setting myself up versus pulling from retirement. I did that. I made the mistake, but I learned from that, and I would not do that again. I was young. I was 23 years old at the time, so I understand where that pool is and where you're like, well, I just want to get that down payment. Here's the money. Think about it logically and think about it for the long term and how important is the house right then and there. But you have flexibility. Is VU, QQQ, and VXF a good long-term portfolio? VU and QQQ are great. I don't know what your allocations are. VXF, I forget, is that small cap? I forget what VXF is off the top of my head. Let me see what it is. Extended market. Okay. It's pretty solid. There's probably likely a lot of overlap there, so be careful with your allocations. But other than that, I think it's reasonable. My job is offering a standard 401k and Roth option that combines both. Beautiful. Should I do the option? If so, what percentage each one? So also, guys, on top of this, so I can't answer that directly which one you should do, obviously, based on this conversation. What I can say is I typically do, and this is a rule of thumb, this is not a set in stone type of thing because I don't know your situation, and this may overshoot your goals or undershoot your goals, so I don't know. The rule of thumb is 15% of your gross income, right? So if I were to decide between these two accounts, I would do up to the 401k match. Let's say you get like 3% match or whatever. I would start with the 401k, whatever that takes to get that match, 100% match, because that's 100% guarantee on your money. I would then move to the IRA and I would max that out. So let's just say the first was like $3,000. The second step, the IRA, is $6,000, right? Because that's the max. So you're at $9,000. And then the remaining to get to 15%, let's say you're making $100,000, so 15% of gross income is $15,000. So 15,000 minus steps 2 and 1 would be 6,000 remaining. So therefore, you would have step 1 of 3,000, step 2 of 6,000, step 3 of 6,000. And how that would look at the very end would be 401k would be, let's just say, 9,000 for the year. And then the IRA would be 6,000 for the year, and that would be 15,000 total, split between the IRA and 401k. And that would be, let's just say you're making obviously 100,000. That would be 15% of that. That's a rule of thumb. Now, also you'd have to consider Roth or traditional within that. I think if you're at 100,000, I'd probably be going Roth myself. But that's just a general rule of thumb again. Now, I would take that 9,000 and 6,000. I would divide it by like 26 pay periods. And then I would say, okay, my 401k is contributed, let's say the first and third of every month, so first and third. So then, therefore, I would go to my IRA. I would set up, because remember, this is up to you. This is your decision, what you're doing with the IRA. I would set that up on the opposite Fridays, second and fourth of each month. So then your cash flow position, so the second and fourth. So every single week you have some money coming out. So your cash flow is pretty even throughout the month. You're not like way up on every other Friday, but you've evenly distributed that money throughout all the 4 weeks. That's probably your best way to go. This man is slaying day after day. Appreciate you, Jonathan. Will this be on your page for replay? Yes, I'm going to put this on my page, so you guys can watch this after. I'm gonna do this every single week, guys. I'm gonna bring it as much as I can for you guys. I know I used to answer a lot of questions like I'm doing right now, just solely. Every single Wednesday is Whiteboard Wednesday. You guys, I'm listening to what you guys want me to talk about, so it's up to you guys. It's not my decision. I know I had a request from Tommy. Next Wednesday is going to be HSAs broken down. So HSAs are a very powerful tool, and I'm going to talk about that as well. Fill up the buckets. Yeah, guys, buckets is key. The buckets is one of the most important things when it comes to tax strategy. The very first thing you should be worrying about is savings rate. If you're just starting, don't worry about tax strategy. Just think about how much can I just get into investments. It doesn't have to be ideal. It doesn't have to be tax or pre-tax or post-tax or tax-free or whatever, however you want to term the buckets. Just get your money in. So that might be, hey, I'm working up to 15%. I'm working up to 20% or whatever. Just get your money in. Once you become more accustomed to the investing game and you start to understand the language a little better and you understand your goals and you've worked with a financial professional, now take it up a notch and worry about the buckets. The buckets are key, but that's not the most important thing. I would rather you just save money and invest than worry about tax strategy. Tax strategy is after that savings rate. You need to focus on the savings rate first. They all benefit you in the longer term. The earlier you start, the better. Exactly. So that's the key, guys, is like the biggest thing here is it's going to impact you greatly. It's going to help your family. It's going to go into great detail, great depth for your investments long term if you just have a high savings rate. So focus on savings rate, savings rate, savings rate. Automate that entire process. So let's say it's 25% of your gross income, which is a super high savings rate. Do that. Get that on paper. Automate that. Do not budge from that, and then everything else can be paid out of pocket for like your bills and stuff like that. Maybe by then they'll cancel taxes on the 401ks when we pull out the funds at the eligible age. Yeah, who knows? Honestly, at that point, I mean, it's crazy. Because Roth does not have RMDs. Does that mean you can keep it untouched even at retirement, pass along to your beneficiary 100%? Yeah, at death, that's when it gets dispersed. So yes. So that's the power of the Roth, guys. The Roth is a beautiful tool. A Roth IRA specifically is a beautiful tool that we were blessed with. If the government puts a cap on any account, right? The HSA, the 401k, the IRA, there is a reason. Just think of it logically. Why would the government put a cap on a 401k or HSA or IRA? It's because it's a great account. You can grow tax-free savings for a long period of time. So that should give you antennas to say, okay, this is probably a pretty good account. I need to go this route, or at least think about this route, or why it's a benefit to it. So a lot of people bash 401ks, the Zoomers out there. They're like, oh, the 401ks suck. I have a lot of content as to why they do not suck. And also, most people that say they suck are typically uneducated, because if someone just says something sucks, like they haven't gone deeper, right? They haven't asked why it sucks. It's usually just a pretty like blanket statement, or just like a headline or whatever. They're either selling you whole life insurance, they're under 18, or they don't understand the 3 ways to withdraw funds early from 401ks and IRAs. So there are ways to withdraw that money. So 401ks do not suck, and if you know how to use them, you can grow tax-free wealth a long period of time. This is what the wealthy do, and then they pull that money out without penalty if they need to. Yeah, Jamie, I'll definitely save this live. Yeah, Cole, I can definitely teach on life insurance for sure. We can touch life insurance. MPI, IUL policies, I keep hearing about them, and many people are convinced by them too good to be true. Yes, so that's kind of what I was talking about, guys. If you are getting sold, ask yourself why you keep hearing these IUL, MPI, all this kind of stuff. It's because they get high commissions. It's pretty simple. I know they're not going to tell you that, and they're going to say you can get tax-free loans on, or tax-free withdrawals, and you can take loans out on these policies. And this is what the wealthy do. All these kind of things, guys. MPIs and IULs are not meant for 99% of people, and for the 1% that actually are needed, they're already wealthy and they're trying to plan for future generations, and it might make sense at that point in time. But do not fall victim. If you're under $1 million net worth, don't even think about it. And the sad thing is, these insurance agents, obviously they're getting a high commission, but they're also attacking like lower net worth individuals. They're not going for the high net worth individuals. They're hitting low net worth individuals, and they're saying, hey, this MPI, this is going to change your world. Screw the system. They're trying to like sell this story. Be very careful when it comes to insurance salesmen. Very careful. If your financial advisor is telling you about insurance, red flag, huge red flag. Run away and ask for another financial advisor. I'm still waiting for the tax changes where I can claim my fund manager says dependence on my 1040. Madeline, you might be able to here soon. Who knows? I don't know what the government's going to decide. What's my top 3 Fidelity index funds? I don't have a top 3. Like I can tell you what I would invest in if I was there, and I'm not going to answer that question. I'm done answering that question, because with all due respect, people take a fund that I mentioned and they just go invest into it. And it's not, you need to dive a lot deeper into the content if you want to know those. So yeah, I'm gonna keep that one off the. I'm not gonna answer that tonight. So much value in a free lie. Appreciate you, Dirty Bird Crow. You're the man, buddy. Should you max out 401k or contribute to Roth IRA? We went over that, guys. That would be down here with a 15%. I would say I typically do 15% of my gross income because it's more than enough for my goals. And then I also hit my taxable brokerage really, really hard. So our savings rate is super high. And that was not always the way growing up and stuff like that. As I was paying off a lot of debt, it was not as high as it is now. But what we've done is take a lot of that money and put it to a taxable account. Taxable brokerage is the most flexible account, and you don't have any hoops to really jump through, and so that's why we do that. Roth IRA beneficiaries, do they pay inheritance taxes? No. I have to DM me about that. The beneficiaries, the beneficiary tax by account, I need to think through all that before just blanket saying that. I helped one of my students with that, but I need to do some research on that. Make sure I'm saying the right thing and everything. I know the back door, guys. I know it's backwards now because I'm not teaching on it. I had to flip it around, but it wasn't before. How does a Roth 401k factor in? I have the option to do both. I think everything we talked about just would probably cover that. So like the Roth, the whole conversation was kind of geared towards Roth or traditional. So I don't know how else to answer that than what I kind of talked about. Are 529 plans even worth it with the way things are trending politically, or should I just start saving for my kids' college, use their brokerage account moving forward? That's a good concern, John. So here's what I think. So I do think if you have 529 assets, I think the government, if anything does change with like higher education, or just in general, I think they'll open the 529 floodgate to have a lot more options. I don't think it's going to be specifically for college. So I don't think you'll be grandfathered into like, oh, you're screwed if you saved 18 years. And there is a bill that was actually proposed where 529 unused assets could then, instead of being like pushed to like a future generation child, it could actually be put into a parent Roth IRA or traditional IRA. So that would be very interesting if they opened that. I know there's a bill proposed. I would assume they're thinking through that because I know things are going to change and higher education is going to change. So I don't think you can get burned by investing in a 529. But if you do want ultimate flexibility with that money, the brokerage would be a better option probably. But from a tax perspective, it definitely wouldn't be as beneficial. I-bonds, yes or no? I have a good YouTube video on that to break down I-bonds. I look at that in general as a short-term savings vehicle. I do not look at I-bonds as a good long-term investment, but I do look at them as like a short-term savings, maybe 1 to 5 years, maybe a down payment, maybe a car, maybe a home, whatever you're looking for. I think a good greater than 1 year, but less than 5 years because it's locked up for 1 year, so liquidity is not there. But go watch that YouTube video. You can definitely get a lot of good information from the I-bonds. I break them down in general. 401ks don't suck at all, especially if you have a job that matches free money. Exactly, Rocky Rock. I don't know why 401ks are so hated on. I mean, like, it's just an account. Like, just understand the rules of the game. That's the thing. Like, intelligent, smart people don't just, like, blatantly just hate on something. They think through everything. They assess the situation and say, that's not for me. They don't have an emotional reaction to an account. If you have an emotional reaction to an account, you're probably not educated on it, and you're just being an asshole. Like, or you're just being a 16-year-old kid. Like, I hate to say it, but that's the truth. An educated person would assess every account available to them, a 401k, an IRA, an HSA, a taxable brokerage, even a life insurance policy maybe, I-bonds, all these different accounts, and understand where those come into play within their life, and do they apply or do they not? And so a lot of accounts don't apply to people. And so when you oftentimes is like you'll get marketed an account like a life insurance policy. It does not relate to you. It does not help you reach your goals. It's just kind of like pushed and fitted into it, right, for the insurance salesman to make a sale. And they're saying all the great things that come from it and stuff like that. You just got to assess and educate yourself on all these accounts, all your investment options, and what makes most sense based on your goals. It's a very, very easy conversation in the beginning with a financial advisor or any professional. The first thing they're going to say, what are your goals? Let's work backwards from those. That's the first question with any professional that you'll get. If you get to that point and someone says, hey, you should be in this before they even ask you questions, if your professional is not asking you questions to understand your situation, that's a huge red flag. The first thing I do when anybody signs up with one-on-one with me, there's a questionnaire shot to them. A very long list of questions so I understand an insight into their life. I do not start anything before I talk to them on top of that. So once they send that, I will ask follow-up questions if it's not clear. Because I need to understand what they're trying to accomplish. Because you and I could both do really, really well with finances, but your goals might be a lot different than mine. Therefore, we need to use different vehicles and different investments for your goals and to hit those goals. It seems common sense, but it's not. Investment accounts are the only way to live rich, 100%. You guys got to get your money invested, whether it be real estate, investments, business. That's the game, guys. Wealthy people invest in businesses, they invest in the stock market, and they invest in real estate. There's no secret there. That's what they do, and that's what you need to do if you want to be wealthy. If a Roth TSP that roll over to a Roth IRA can still grow, even though it's a different brokerage, yeah, it will still grow. If you guys roll over money, as long as it's invested, make sure it gets invested. One of the biggest pitfalls is when people don't invest their money into the actual investment account. So within these accounts, 401k, IRA, you have to invest the money. Like you have to choose which investments within those investment accounts that goes to. Had my first automatic transfer into my update portfolio this week. Feels good to have things in motion. Amazing, guys. Automatic is amazing. I have like 19 transactions a month that just are hitting automatic. If you guys are subscribed to my page, I do give you guys every single buy personally that I make, but it's all automatic. So I have everything set up in accordance with my goals long term. Everything just hits when I wake up. I don't even look at my investments ever. I don't look at the market. I don't care. I have a good setup to where it doesn't matter. My job only matches $100 in the 401k. That's kind of offensive. Should I switch to a Roth IRA? I would do, again, same thing I talked about on the board. Can't wait for the HSA next week. Yes, Madeline, I'm hyped about the HSA. The HSA is going to be a good breakdown. It's one of my favorite accounts. If someone's getting a pension upon retiring, how much do they save if, say, 25% is a little high? It depends what that looks like in relation. You got to ask yourself, what's your monthly expenses going to look like? What are your annual expenses? How's that pension going to factor into it? And then backtrack into those different accounts to get you to that other portion that you need to make up. What do I think about FXAIX? Excellent. It's S&P 500. FSRNX, I think that is, let me verify what FSR, isn't that real estate? Let me check. Yeah, real estate, Fidelity's real estate fund, amazing. And I know FCILX is international. Borball, I don't know how to say that name. I like those investments. Again, I'm not trying to not skirt the question. I typically would like FZROX, FXIX, FSRNX, and FZILX. Like, all those are great investments. I just don't like to blatantly say, like, or just like openly say, like, hey, I like this, this, and that, because then people run with my investments and it doesn't apply to their situation. I bonds have a 9% interest rate. Yep, they do. What's up, Finance Cowboy? Birdman in the house. Who's Birdman? Oh, Dirty Bird Crow. Why do I keep missing these whiteboard lives? Yeah, guys, every 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every single Wednesday, we're going to hit these. I'm about to hop off here. I do have a call. I'm not a financial advisor, your wealth advisor. I'm a CPA. After Wednesday, HSA, what is the following Wednesday? We don't have anything, guys, as of now. I heard insurance, but just let me know what you guys want me to talk about. And 403B, variable or fixed. I don't know what you mean by variable within investments. I guess, yeah, let me know what you mean by that. Is using LVest as an investment tool okay? It's okay. Guys, I think there's a lot better just traditional broker houses than like some of the new stuff out there. It's not bad to use it, but I think that's a robo-advisor if I am correct. So let me see. Let me just verify LVest is a robo-advisor. I think it is. I'm trying to see. Yeah, robo-advisor. So robo-advisors typically are going to charge 35 to 50 basis points. And that's too high for me, especially when they're auto-investing, when it's pretty simple what they're doing. So if you understand, maybe start there. Maybe understand what they're actually doing for you. Learn about what they're doing, and then just manually do it yourself. Way easier. I wouldn't pay the fee if I were you guys. All right, guys. Appreciate it. I'm going to save this live, and I'm going to put this on my page for you guys to rewatch if you want. And I got to go take a call, so I appreciate everybody tuning in. And just let me know next week, or the HSA and life insurance, but other topics, DM me or whatever, and we can go from there. All right, guys. Have a good night.